I don't know if it's like a two-step thing or if they're just trying to be helpful. Probably a two-step thing. They just don't want to be on the hook like that. All right. So it's just me. So no guest to prepare. I guess let's get. Oh no, we got 1 minute. We have a countdown. Very exciting. Oh, how elite! We have a countdown. La 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 la. Yes. I guess I'll use this countdown to verify that yes, this is working. Everything is functioning. Odyssey's up. YouTube is up. Okay, got my external doodads going. External doodads, that's a technical term. Why do we call everything we don't understand a thing? Delicious coffee. Playing around with the lighting a little bit. Hopefully you guys are satisfied with the result. Let me know. If you see the lighting and you're like, my God, how could you do this to yourself and to my favorite show? Of course, you don't have to pretend it's your favorite show, but if it is your favorite show, definitely tell me. That would make me happy. Yeah. All right. Oh, look at that. I managed to kill a minute with my small talk with no one. Hello, and welcome to the Technocrat Live. I'm your host, Matthew Newhall. Thank you for joining me. I do not have a guest tonight. This is the 185th episode of the Technocrat Live. And when we don't have a guest, we continue on with the news. That's what we do here. Sorry about that. My life's a little crazy. I almost didn't do the show tonight, and then I was just inspired. It's a little bit of a thin news week, but the news items are pretty eventful, so I didn't want you guys to miss out. You got to keep track of those that are keeping track of you, keeping track of them, keeping track of you, keeping track of them, keeping track of you, keeping track of them. You get the idea. I'll let you go down that recursive rabbit hole without me, because you're going down it whether you like it or not. That is the point of the Technocrat Live. Well, there's actually a whole bunch of points. I've been thinking about Breaking Bad lately. I don't know, or at least Breaking Meaningful. I've been kind of like soft pedaling some stuff, and I don't know. Do you guys think I'm too soft? Am I too soft on the technocracy? Let me know. I want to know. Okay, so this is the Dystopia report. I just wanted to say before we get into the Dystopia report, please love, like, and share this show. If you like it, just click the like button, and of course, please subscribe, but the most important thing to me is comment. If you're watching this live, if you're watching this after the fact, feel free to comment. I really want to interact with you guys, particularly when it's live. I want you guys to comment because I want the questions. I want the feedback. I want to hear what you guys think about the topics that I'm bringing up. And, of course, I want to know if I get something wrong. I'm kind of like, I want to get fact-checked. I want to be corrected. So if you enjoy correcting people, well, no, maybe not if you enjoy it. But if you're willing to correct people, willing to correct me, and you know I'm wrong, and you've got the interweb nets in front of you, and you're just poking and prodding at those search engines, let me know. Doesn't mean I'm going to agree, but I'll definitely listen. And if it isn't completely out of left field, I'll do my best to notice it in the comments and repeat it. Oh, wait a minute. I think my comments have not synced up yet. Better than that. Okay. Let's see if that does the job. Sometimes YouTube needs a good old refresh to get the comments to reconnect. It didn't even notice that I was connected, so something's really wrong there. And okay, yeah, it looks like it's good. Excellent. Okay, so let's get into it. So the first topic in the Dystopia report is tech government. So Sam Bankman-Fried stole $100 million. Yeah, he's been charged with 7 different counts, and apparently now it is mainstream news that he has he used $100 million of segregated accounts of money that was not his. He just simply stole it and made political donations to the tune of $100 million. I mean, if this is not a technocrat from hell, I don't know what is. He just said, well, I'm the one who figured out how the code works. It's a crypto exchange. All you are my plebes. I'm in charge. And proceeded to definitely change the outcome of many elections with that kind of money. That's kind of hard science. There's not everything in politics is very scientific, but the effect that large sums of money has on the outcomes of elections is really, really reliable. People tend to vote via name recognition because it's a tangled maze of deception during elections. So, yeah, people who spend money on ads win. End of story. And this guy decided to won based on giving away $100 million that wasn't his. A lot of people have turned this into a political hotcake. I am specifically not doing that. It is political donations, and that is all I'm saying. I'm not saying who, I'm not saying why, I'm not saying what their policies are. But, yeah, it's really bad that a technocrat could get away with this. Well, maybe he can't. So 7 counts of conspiracy and fraud. Oh, and by the way, someone had mentioned this before in the show. This is one of the reasons I'm bringing this up. I didn't particularly love this story because, of course, one of the most famous things he did, although it wasn't the mainstream news reporting it in any meaningful amounts before, was that he donated majorly to political campaigns. It tended to be a particular group of people who were citing that. But, yeah, no one's denying it anymore. Further, he's back in jail. Yeah, so this is not a good dude. Apparently, he's back in jail after Judge Kaplan. Oh yeah, I shouldn't have said his name. Whatever. It's like judges are pretty non-political. But actually, I know that particular judge, and if I could do politics, I would. But I won't. But actually, apparently, this judge said, yeah, he tampered with a witness in his own case. So they just threw him back in jail and threw away the key. So he ain't getting back out. So this is a guy that not only changes the game board for everybody's politics, and because he thinks he's elite because he's a technocrat, but he also changes the game board for his own court case with no regard for what the rules were. This is crazy. I mean, this guy's not okay. So, yeah, not good. Okay, so on to tech. This is interesting. This story broke while I was beginning the broadcast for the last Technocrat Live, I was in the middle of it because it actually broke while the show was going on. Oracle, SUSE, and CIQ have all formed an organization called the Open Enterprise Linux Association, or OELA. They're going after Red Hat. They're pissed off that Red Hat changed the terms of their source RPMs, which arguably they are not legally allowed to do. So they're going the high-dollar route of supporting the GPL, oddly, against Red Hat, which is crazy, but basically saying you can't do this. There's been arguments over before about what distribution means in the GNU public license, or nicknamed the copyleft. Yeah, so this is interesting. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out in case law. But, SUSE and CIQ might lose against a behemoth like Red Hat, but Oracle is no slouch, right? And Oracle does not want to have to support multiple Linux distributions. That's why they came up with their own. They based it on Red Hat, and one of their pitches was, of course, you can just use Red Hat. We don't care. You can use our Linux, and that'll be a little easier for us, but we could do Red Hat too, because basically their Linux was Red Hat Linux. So, yeah, I mean, I understand Red Hat's position too. I'm not saying they're bad guys, but violation of the rules, yeah, definitely the spirit of it. And I don't know about the law, but definitely the spirit of it. There may be a technicality. All right, so, yeah, check that out, OELA. So it looks like Red Hat in the long run is not going to get away with this. We've got multiple distributions just doing whatever they have to do to get the source and ignoring them, like Rocky. And you've got the big wigs basically trying to sue their pants off in court. They're going to win. Red Hat's going to lose. IBM's going to lose on this. Sorry, IBM. You went a little too far. All right, so on in tech. People are having sex in robo-taxis. Hot. Yeah. This is fine. Nothing compared to the possible washroom messes, though, in robo-taxis. We're talking about taxis run by AI, so this is kind of like an AI subsection here. This is the only AI-ish story this week. It is in the news. There's been some arguments with other people, Musk and the CEO of Microsoft, over AI and whether Microsoft controls OpenAI, which makes ChatGPT, or not. Whatever. I'm not going to get into it. It's kind of political. It's quasi-political, so I'm going to avoid it. But now you know about it. But yeah, this is kind of the most interesting AI story this week. It looks like the effects of not having a person to lower their brow at someone and say, "Don't do that in the back of my taxi," is starting to have its effect. People are kind of making it like the Mile High Club in San Francisco, in particular. That's where this is. This is from the San Francisco Standard. The tech companies say that one of the things they may do is they may write an app to detect when someone has left trash behind. I assume that includes used condoms, which is really not the worst thing you could do in a taxi. If you think about it, yes, a used condom is gross, but how about an entire footwell full of puke? Yeah, or failing to recycle. I hear they execute you in San Francisco for that. So, yeah, no, seriously, recycling is important, and the robo-taxi is not the place to do it, folks. Yeah, well, apparently the San Francisco PD, in an attempt to thicken the plot, has already put in several requests not related to this story for camera footage. So from robo-taxis. So, of course, there's a camera in there. They're keeping track in case somebody vandalizes the taxi itself. There's no reason that, if they write an app to determine if someone's doing something illegal in the back of a taxi, that they can't immediately reroute from their destination and just drive them to the police station and send them an email. Hey, there's a robo-taxi with some perps locked inside. You want an easy arrest? Didn't think about that when you were okay with robo-taxis, did you? Hope you don't get misidentified through facial recognition. That's never happened. It happened a few times, like every week. Yeah. Anyway, so maybe your robo-taxi will be narking you in the future. But in the meantime, there's the Mile High Club. Awesome. If you're a voyeur, or you don't mind, or some combination thereof. Speaking of voyeurs, there's always Texas. No, it doesn't really jive. But, it's funny if it did. So Texas is planning a bullet train. So specifically, it's Amtrak and Texas. They're planning a bullet train between Houston and Dallas. I'm a little nervous because Amtrak doesn't have the best track record with new technologies. But it is Texas, and Texas has got two things in abundance, maybe three things in abundance that it needs. It has plenty of superhighways in place, and they tend to be raised up. So there's probably room to either put above or below, and they already know how to do it. They've got lots of room, and they've got lots of money. So it is possible we may actually get a legit bullet train between those two cities. And, of course, why do we care if there's a bullet train between Dallas and Houston if you don't live in Texas? Well, I mean, if you do live in Texas, your commute, duh. But also, this can really matter because if these two cities put this train together, it kind of makes them shishi and elite. Like, look, there's Japan and then there's Texas, Okay, not looking so good, New York and California. Not really that hot there, Boston, not so fancy, Florida. Like, what are you doing? Texas is eating your lunch. So a lot of states are going to have pressure on them to implement their own bullet trains. Very cool if they manage to do that. I just wanted to say that it's going to be 205 miles an hour is the planned time for the bullet train, and the commute between Houston and Dallas will be 90 minutes. So if you're not aware, that's about, 220, 230 miles. So not going to be going 205 miles an hour the whole time, because that should be an hour ride, not an hour and a half. But, still pretty fast. I've driven between those two cities. It takes a while, and there is bad traffic in that, especially in the Houston area in particular. Dallas seems to be a little more organized. I think it's because Houston's the most southerly city, so they're just worried about traffic in one direction, a.k.a. north. Okay, so on to science. The University of Alabama and Birmingham has reported that they have successfully transplanted a pig organ in a patient, and it was not rejected for an entire month. This is actually huge news if you follow the organ transplant world and medical science. Specifically, and it may have been longer than a month if the family hadn't pulled the plug on the patient, and they didn't pull the plug on the patient because they found out they put a pig kidney in the patient. They actually pulled it because the patient was brain dead before the operation was. They proceeded with the operation, so I assume the family gave them permission for the purposes of science, and said, well, he's dead anyway. He probably wouldn't mind. So they sewed in a pig kidney for someone suffering from kidney failure. No repercussions. Really amazing. Apparently, they would raise the pigs with up to 10 genetic modifications to the kidney. When I saw the 10 genetic modifications, I got kind of excited. I thought maybe, oh, cool, they're doing epigenetic kind of CRISPR, or they're doing kind of inline gene editing. But no, they raised the pigs from birth, I believe. In case you don't know why they did a kidney transplant in particular, why they do this one, I mean, like you would think heart transplant, more urgent, right? No, actually, kidney transplants are the biggest problem. As far as I know, they are the biggest problem. They are the 100,000 people are waiting for a kidney transplant every year, and very few of them actually get their kidney transplants. The only supplement in the case where they're lacking a kidney transplant is dialysis. That's what, when you hear about someone on dialysis, that's what's going on. Yeah, and most people who are waiting for a kidney transplant die. They never get it. So, of course, they triage, and they tend to give the kidney transplants to the youngest and the most healthy patients, the ones who have the best chance of living. Of course, I'm sure there are financial exceptions for that, where people who have the best insurance or are the richest get the transplants. Yeah, that kind of sucks, and it seems like a preventable situation. And the fact that they managed to modify a pig's kidney enough that the pig was able to live healthily, and then the person was after with the same kidney in them. Awesome. Also in science, a global team. So normally I try to cite my science stories. A global team has published a paper on science.org. Apparently, they have managed to genetically engineer bacteria that will kill cancer. So really awesome. I mean, this is bottom, instead of bottom up, this is top down nanotech. I mean, in case you didn't know, I wrote a sci-fi book on nanotech, specifically because I was really interested in what would happen to society as nanotech was introduced into society. I thought that there would be a lot of disruption, and this is exactly the kind of thing that can happen. Although it may not be the disruption I was thinking, because it's not bottom up, it's top down. In other words, they're using existing organisms. So interestingly, they used the bacteria. They used CRISPR in the bacteria's DNA. If you're not aware, CRISPR technology actually mimics a bacteria DNA. The bacteria in question, watch me butcher the name of this bacteria, is Acinetobacter bailey, which is a particular, which is the bacteria they decided was the easiest to modify to do this. What it was looking for specifically was colon cancer. This is where it gets really interesting. If you're not aware of probiotics and how they work, probiotics are actually just another kind of bacteria that you're intentionally introducing into your body. And of course, they live everywhere from your gut, I presume your throat too at some point, all the way down to your rectum and throughout the stomach, the large intestine, the small intestine. Of course, the large intestine is just another name for the colon is another name for the end of the large intestine. Yeah, so if it's targeting colon cancer, that means that these bacteria are being ejected from the body when they've completed their task in excrement, which brings up the question of, we may have the first case of fully autonomous, self-replicating nanites being let loose in the environment, and in this case, specifically into the sewers. What are the consequences of this? Well, the odds that, if these bacteria are accurately just targeting colon cancer, probably nothing. But if this is a success, it may be a solution for, without major changes to any kind of digestive cancer, stomach cancer, throat cancer. And if that's the case, then there's going to be a whole bunch of these released into the environment. There could be really serious consequences for this, in the sense that if there's side effects, like let's say like a zoonotic disease, right? Zoonotic disease is any virus or bacteria that jumps from one animal to another and then has a drastically different effect on another animal. Actually, it doesn't even have to be a virus or bacteria. It can even be just a complicated protein, like not even qualifying as a virus, like a prion, like a mad cow disease. Yeah, there can be consequences for other species. So even if we didn't have a negative, oh no, I got the colon cancer curing bacteria in me, big deal, but it could be that kills cats, and because one of the native tissues in a cat looks too much like colon cancer, whatever genetic flags protein flags it's looking for, it kills those. So yeah, not great there, but I'm just hoping the ecosystem will not be so patent encumbered that it'll be sufficiently diverse that when a threat like this comes up, we're ready to face it. And we're ready to, someone has an appropriately tooled bacteria that's able to kill the bacteria that are killing the cats in this hypothetical situation. We'll see. We will see. But yeah, we may need to be relying, because we're relying on an external immune system that doesn't depend on the human body. We're going to need to rely on a external immune system policing system that doesn't rely on the human body. I'm not discouraging this. This is amazing news. Nanotech is the solution to the entirety of disease and pollution. I mean, bar none. I mean, you can get rid of every single invasive species with nanotech. You can eliminate the landfills, and not only that, turn them into a revenue source. You can, in this case, cure cancer. You can probably do genetic modification where you're improving people. In fact, the topic of my books was turning normal people into superheroes with extremely believable technologies that were coming in the near future. And they're freaking here. I mean, being able to beat colon cancer would make a huge difference for someone who, say, like had been exposed to radiation but hadn't gotten colon cancer yet, or had radioactive materials in their diet, and this is just the beginning. I mean, apply this to any organ, and the implications are huge. Ariella, hey, what's up, Ariella? Thanks for tuning in. Unfortunately, I have bad news. I feel bad. People are just starting to tune in, and I'm going to end the show because I've run out of news stories. That's the end of the Dystopia report. I was a little picky this week on the news stories I picked, but I'm really glad to that you guys have tuned in and checked it out. I'm sorry for the late show today. My life's a little chaotic, but I'm working on yeah, sorry, Ariella. I have to tune out. I mean, I started at 8:30, and the show is only, I don't know, how long was the show today? I don't even know. I feel bad. Oh, we've been going for 22 minutes. I mean, I'm not going to drag it out. I don't want to, one of the things I don't want to do with the show is I don't want to drag it out. I will say this before I get offline. Tune in next week at 8 o'clock. I just got, I may try to sneak in a few minutes early, so don't be late. Next week on next Thursday at 8 p.m. I just got Lee Wilbur to agree to be on the show, and he's going to be talking about his experiences at DEF CON. I actually pulled the story from this week because I want him to be able to talk about it, because he actually mentioned it before I saw the news story about it. So we've got at least 2 major breaking news kind of things from DEF CON, and just hearing his anecdotal stories about the experience there was awesome. Anyway, everybody, thanks for tuning in. I just wanted to say have a good night. I'll see you guys next week, and choose wisely. Choose to share. Good night, everybody.